the guidance says that you're not able to take the employee retention credit against qualified wages that were also part of the PPP loan forgiveness. And so as part of the PPP loan, when the employer filed the forgiveness application, you have to include a certain percentage of that. I believe it's 60% in payroll costs as part of your PPP loan.
Yes, at a minimum.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so what we look at is we look at the PPP loan forgiveness application, the covered period, and here at ERC Pros, we take a careful analysis and make sure that there's no overlap between those wages claimed as part of the PPP loan forgiveness, no overlap with the qualified wages that we're using to determine the retention credit.
Mm-hmm. And that double dipping scenario that you're describing is something that's commonly associated with other credits where you have to take that into account. So it's not something that we haven't looked at before. It's just something that we're making sure to apply in the specific way that it's been handed down in the statute for this credit.
Right.
So with the PPP loan itself, it can be forgiven. And in that case, it's actually not considered income as far as the qualification for the ERC credit, which I think is an important aspect that we're looking at when we're doing our qualification analysis, is that we do have the option to look at your revenue, and seeing a sufficient decrease in revenue, the PPP loan is not considered income for purposes of that analysis. So I think that's really important that taxpayers know that even though they took the PPP loan, it's not considered income for the purposes of the employee retention credit analysis.
Yeah, and it's good that the IRS clarified that, because I think that was a big hesitation at first when they did come in and say, okay, you took a PPP loan, you can take the ERC now. Practitioners and business owners weren't sure how that was going to pan out. Mm-hmm. And so the IRS has specifically clarified that now in their guidance, which I think is important to note, because this thing has evolved with the pandemic, essentially. I mean, there was the CARES Act. No one really knew. I mean, some of the wording in the statute was very vague, and I think somewhat maybe intentionally so on the IRS's part. It was open to interpretation, and so practitioners were, kind of digging into the wording of it, trying to figure out how the IRS was going to interpret it. There are still some things that are unknown as far as how they're going to interpret it, but the important thing to note, we've kept up with the guidance. So here at ERC Pros, this is all we do, and so we have been essentially reading all the guidance as it comes out, staying up to date, which I think, that's very important to note, just for business owners that maybe they looked at it early on, they thought, I can't do this because I took a PPP loan, or for other reasons, things have changed really dramatically.